The right patches, the right machines, the right time. How about sleeping on Tuesday? With ZENworks, you can patch whenever it makes sense for you, not just on Patch Tuesdays. In fact, you can patch 24/7 without even worrying about when or what may go out of patch. Just define the patch policies, and ZENworks will follow up and will pull from a pre-tested library of the latest patches to do all the work for you. You already know how fast threats come to the system and how important it is to keep the system patched constantly to compliance standards to protect it against that fast moving threat. Well, for some situations, it isn't really enough to know what's coming at you. In the time that takes to find the new patch and apply it, your customer systems may already be compromised. For some customers, patches have to happen immediately, as soon as a patch erosion or need is detected. To meet that kind of unhumanly fast need, you have to take the requirement for human innovation out of the equation. Let the policy do it. It is faster. That's what ZENworks Patch Management subscription adds to the ZENworks suite, a fully pre-tested library of patches that can pull from to immediately apply to any patch remediation need that it detects. In this case, the policies that IT sets up for patch management don't just detect, analyze, and warn, they patch. They patch automatically. By combining this suite with the patch subscription, IT can set up patch management and just let it run. Once you configure and deploy ZENworks patch management policies, ZENworks will continually scan for patch status. It will automatically remediate anything that doesn't meet minimum patch policies. It will verify the status of all patch activity in real time, and it also will instantly patch anything added to the network, bringing each new install into compliance. Work smarter, no longer, with easy patch management. With a unified, centralized, easy-to-use web-based console, ZENworks Patch Management lets you apply software patches automatically and consistently to minimize vulnerabilities and issues. Novell ZENworks Patch Management makes endpoint protection automatic for you. It ends the hassle of uncertainty of identifying the correct patches for different systems, testing them, and preparing them for successful deployment. We do this by leveraging the world's largest dynamic repository of patches, which provides more than 10,000 pre-tested patches for more than 40 major current and legacy operating system and applications. And by providing reliable and pre-tested patch packages that dramatically reduce the time and labor required to check, verify, and deploy those patches. So let's take a look at how you can make patch management easy by taking advantage or leveraging ZENworks patch management policies. The ZENworks patch policy is a new feature designed to make deployment of multiple patches easier across large states. It can be configured to automate releases and keep the workgroups up to date. Patch policies can be used as a testing ground for new patches before they are released onto the network, and can also be used to filter content so that devices can be selected or omitted as part of the remediation. Patch policies allow us to set rules that specify the patch conditions for the patches you wish to enforce on the assigned devices. In this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over creating a simple patch policy. You can create policies for the following platforms. You can create it for Linux, Mac, or Windows. In this case, I'm going to select my Windows platform. I'm going to name policy Microsoft Critical or 64-bit, or whichever you choose to use. As I mentioned earlier, patch policies allows me to set a set of patch conditions, right? We do this by utilizing filters. The filters that I can use in my policies are, for example, I can define the age of the patches. I can define or query for a certain architecture, the CVE identifier of the patch, the impact of this patch, whether it's critical, an installer or information or so forth, the actual patch name that is actually published by the actual vendor, the release date of those patches, and the actual vendor. In my case, I'm going to start by selecting a vendor, and I'm going to go and select Microsoft Corporation. Then I'm also going to add another filter to select, for example, the impact of my patches. I'm going to go with critical, but I can go by recommender or informational. I'm going to go with critical. So far we got two filters, Microsoft and critical. And I'm going to also add another filter that allows me to, let's say for example, pick up the architecture. I only want to do 64-bit architecture for this specific policy. Now I'm going to add another filter, and this other filter is going to be perhaps for age. I want only patches that are not older than a year, and also patches that are not younger than 7 days, just in case the vendor, in this case Microsoft, decides to pull those patches out of the cloud for some reason. So as it is right now, a quick little example of setting some filters and certain criteria to define the conditions of my policy. Okay, once again recapping, I'm only looking for Microsoft Corporation. The impact of those patches have to be critical. I'm gonna be looking for 64-bit architecture in this case, and because my corporate universal image is about 6 months to a year old, I don't need anything older than that, and obviously I want to make sure that the patches are still valid out there. So based on the criteria and the filter set that we selected, here we have the result of the patches available. As you can tell, we have 262 patches that are meeting that criteria defined by us. So now I know that based on that, those 262 patches right now are truly, what really qualifies for my environment right now based on that policy. Another thing that is good to know in this case is this policy by default will rebuild itself in 30 days. This is cool because once again, remember we talk about set and forget, the easy way to patch, right? So in those 30 days, the logic of the policy will recompile again, and it's going to go again and take a look at the criticals, the 1 year old, and the 7 days. So whatever is not meeting that criteria, it's going to drop. Whatever is new that meets that criteria, it's going to add. Once again, I'm building a logic that's going to allow me to relax and sleep on Tuesdays, right? Another neat feature of the patch policies is the ability to continue to leverage the action sets. For example, here we are, and in front of you, you see that we have two available tabs as action sets, a pre-enforcement and a post-enforcement. So my policy goes and builds the patches based on the criteria, but beyond that, I can do and add additional logic to the policy. For example, I can do things such as I can end a process before my patches. I can find a file and remove it. I can install an application bundle if needed. I can launch an application bundle before when my policy goes to work. I can launch executable, and I can even run a script. This is very handy for cases where there is a certain requirement. For example, you may have a system that is extremely tight, and you have a process such as antivirus or endpoint protection and things like that. And sometimes there, things to run into each other, and so it is ideal to perhaps even stop a process that is protecting a certain directory while we are actually applying some patches and so forth. The same capability also exists as a post the patch deployment. You can actually add additional logic to the patch logic. Another great feature of ZENworks patch policies is the fact that we can actually configure behavior such as the install time and the boot behavior by using policy enforcement settings. This is designed to give the user power over the installation time and reboot behavior for each policy. Here's where you can actually set up the schedule. In a nutshell, basically you can define a window of opportunity to apply those patches, specify the start time and how long the window should be open for the patches to be applied. Another great feature of the ZENworks patch policies is the ability to add content or additional patches to the policy that you just built based on that logic. For that matter, we can actually go into the members tab, and then you can actually click on add, and from there you can actually select other type of patches that are not necessary part of the logic that you built. So this way you can actually build almost like a minimum set of requirements for my Windows 64 devices in this case, but also I'm going to add a patch that could perhaps be a patch for a homegrown application per se, or even a third-party application that I need to patch as well. Once my policy is defined and I know that is the way I want it because I already set up for testing and it has passed all my testing scenarios, then I can actually assign that for deployment to the target devices in my organization. I can assign it to a single device, once again, to a group of devices, even a larger group, or even perhaps to the entire corporation if that's the case. So there, patch management the easy way. Set the patch policy to analyze, detect, and remediate. Just let it run. So get out of the weeds in the complicated and inefficient endpoint management. Do more, spend less with ZENworks, the complete, smart, flexible, end-to-end management endpoint protection suite that simplifies and enhances what you can do in your IT environment. Remember, turning this into this will give you time and IT budget and free up your time for other things.